Okay, I will be discussing Marx's analysis of capitalism based off the Communist Manifesto. Essentially, he is saying that he starts off saying that a specter is haunting Europe, known as communism, which is pretty relevant today because it is a very controversial word at the time and still is centuries later, and the meaning has been altered so many times that it kind of just a lot of people don't necessarily understand it. So essentially that industrialization and free market capitalism has brought society into two classes, and they are struggling against each other due to their mass differences. The bourgeois, or the ruling class, the upper elites, the owners of the industries, the oppressors and exploiters of the proletariat, the working class, those who are oppressed and exploited. And this compares to beginning of history with the Middle Ages, feudalism, nobility, and pretty much the building of the pyramids, cathedrals, colosseums. The solutions Marx proposes, because he believed that this system that was in place was unsustainable for the means of production, such as private property should be abolished, higher taxes on the rich, inheritance should be abolished, everything should be more centralized, the banks, transportation, communication, industries should be extended for more opportunity, and more combined, especially agriculture and industry, and free education, especially for children, so they can learn more like skills, so they're not as limited. The solutions, I believe, compared to today's standards, which is nearly like 2 centuries later, these solutions are clearly not in place, and we can see that the current system that we still have not utilizing these solutions doesn't necessarily work. We see that in news and history books, like, the start of labor unions, workers going on strike, and then all of these just even rough labor conditions in modern times, particularly with like Amazon, for example, having very ethical worker treatment. I'm not sure too how far Marx's vision goes, because essentially we don't know how far along we are going scientifically and technologically. This was like long before when computer industry took off, and we see that too with the rise of artificial intelligence in the labor force. But yeah, we see that still, like for example, that entrepreneurs and rich business people have tax breaks. And the abolishment of inheritance is kind of tricky to say because, I mean, there are generally people that have hardworking ethic and they want to kind of just leave everything to the next people, but this doesn't work well when you have very wealthy, higher up people kind of just creating an endless dynasty cycle. And so none of that money goes back to things that people need or can't afford. And yeah, communication, transportation, that should also be kind of this centralized because we have so many different corporations and companies kind of monopolizing on that. But the combination, mixing of rural and urban areas, we can see that because there is a big wealth disparity between those two environments. And especially with also too, like free education. We do have a lot of like public systems in place that are tax funded, but that also depends on how much tax can go into it based off the means of production in that area. So essentially there is a lot of areas that are always going to be better off than some areas, and that just creates just like a massive imbalance. So I would say in overall, given the time that this was published, Marx was essentially on the right idea. I'm not sure too what else he could have done differently, because there are some aspects in kind of like free market capitalism is that it gives us the kind of like freedom to choose what products or services we want to engage in, and also just kind of gives up and coming entrepreneurs ideas, and there might be a new discovery or new innovation that could benefit everybody. But on the downside, that is a double-edged sword because some people could just essentially fully monopolize it and make it completely inaccessible. An example of that would be with like healthcare and developments and innovations there, whereas it would only benefit wealthy people. So overall, I would have to say that working men of all countries unite.